Hello and welcome back to Shawn's Corner. Today we're going to look at irregular verbs. And you can't tell me there's no rhyme or reason for irregular verbs. In fact, there's a lot of rhyme and certainly some reason. So let's take a look at a new way, or at least a way that I've been using, and maybe some of you haven't seen, and that would mean it's new. But these ways of looking at verbs have been around for actually quite a long time. It's just I haven't seen them prominent in teaching English, so I'd like to share them with you. To get us going on this idea of verbs, let's take a quote that all of you know: "To be or not to be," all the way back from Shakespeare's time in Hamlet. Or in my version, "to be or not to be was were being." What is this all about? Well, the verb to be is a very rich verb. It has many different forms, and Germanic languages in general show past in kind of strange ways. There are regular forms where we add the ed, and then there are the irregular forms. And look at the great little comics here. I scanned these ages and ages ago, and I don't even remember where from. But you see that in English there are vowel changes like begin, began, begun, and there are vowel changes that are also accompanied by consonant changes like go, went, gone. And what I'm talking about here is not even mentioning the present form of to be. So let's look at the regular verbs and let's look at a new way to learn them because they need to be memorized. And I think there's an easier way. So take for example, drink, drank, drunk, drive, drove, driven, and dream, dreamt, dreamt. Is there any method in this madness? Well, in fact, there is. And now, a word from our sponsors, Germanic verb forms. Or should I say, the Germanic verb classes, or English Ablaut, if we can also call it Ablaut, which means changing of the sound. So in old times, in Proto-Germanic, there were different verb classes, and what basically happened was the theme vowel, the vowel in the middle, would often change to reflect the time that we're talking about, whether it's present, past, present, or past. And let's start off with one of the favorites, which is begin, began, begun, begun, or often pronounced begin, began, begun. Begin, began, begun is the model. And from there, you can also see a whole bunch of other verb patterns. Drink, drank, drunk, sing, sang, sung, that are all the same. So how did that go again? Begin, began, begun? Oh yeah, then it's drink, drank, drunk, ring, rang, rung, shrink, shrank, shrunk, sing, sang, sung, sink, sank, sunk, spin, span, spun, spring, sprang, sprung, stink, stank, stunk, and swim, swam, swum. This is looking at the verb conjugations as more of a vocabulary exercise than per se a grammar exercise. And it's really meant, as I said before, to stick in the ear. Moving on to a smaller group, we've got drive, drove, driven, and ride, rode, ridden. And they have some other cousins, which are rise, rose, risen, and write, wrote, written. The next group is a little trickier because the infinitives may have different vowel sounds, but the past forms will all be pronounced the same way and written in just two different ways, one with O-U-G-H-T and one with A-U-G-H-T, and it's your job to point that out to students. But I find they often struggle with the pronunciation because they try to put a h or something in there. So let's start off with buy, bought, bought, and then move on from there to fight, fought, fought, bring, brought, brought, think, thought, thought, teach, taught, taught, and catch, caught, caught. Next up is know, knew, known, and they are just like, the forms are just like blow, blew, blown, grow, grew, grown, throw, threw, thrown, and fly, flew, flown. So you're seeing these groupings, and there's no doubt about it that we still have to learn the meanings of these verbs. That'll be very important. But a lot of these verbs, since they are high frequency, they are ones that students will have already used in the present simple, in the present continuous. Maybe they've read somewhere, maybe they've heard in songs. And this will allow, so looking at these groups allows for a little click. So you've heard one form in a song, and then you have other verbs that are similar in rhyme. And lo and behold, the past tense forms are also quite similar. So, okay, so you have these large groups, and let's just say you might not use all these verbs right now, but having some extra verbs along for the ride is actually a good thing because it's programming the students' minds a little bit in terms of these sounds, and it'll allow them to acquire more quickly. Gosh, I hope we aren't biting off more than we can chew. I don't think I've bit off more than I can chew. Let's see. Bite, bit, bit will also pattern on, or be a pattern for hide, hid, hid, light, lit, lit, and slide, slid, slid. Please do notice, though, that bite and hide have dual forms. There's bitten and hidden. But in order to make a category, we do have bit, hid, lit, and slid. Next up, find, found, found. And some hard words like bind, bound, bound, grind, ground, ground, rewind, rewound, rewound, and wind, wound, wound. Not to be confused with wind. Now please don't go breaking my heart, because otherwise I'll have my heart broken. Or shall we say in this category break, broke, broken, which is the same as wake, woke, woken, bear, bore, born, swear, swore, sworn, tear, tore, torn, wear, wore, worn. But then there are also some other ones that pattern the same way, even if the initial infinitive vowel is different. And that would be freeze, froze, frozen, speak, spoke, spoken, steal, stole, stolen, and weave, wove, woven. And I deal with those all together. Students don't seem to have a problem with that. Let's look at this grouping, which goes e, such as in sleep, slept, slept, and read, read, read. And at times we do add a T. So let's start with the ones that add the T. Deal, dealt, dealt, dream, dreamt, dreamt, feel, felt, felt, keep, kept, kept, kneel, knelt, knelt, leave, left, left, and mean, meant, meant. For the ones that simply change the vowel sound, we've got meet, met, met, sweep, swept, swept, bleed, bled, bled, feed, fed, fed, flee, fled, fled, lead, led, led, and speed, sped, sped. And there's actually one with a T in there, so if you can pick it out, you get an extra point. The next group presents a very useful word related to money. Spend, spent, spent. And from there, we've got some other verbs like bend, bent, bent, lend, lent, lent, send, sent, sent, smell, smelt, smelt, and spell, spelt, spelt. The last group I'm going to show you is a beautiful group. There's no change at all. And these are words that are usually one syllable and they end with a T or sometimes with a D, such as bet, 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 burst, 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 and cost, cost, cost. But there's a whole page of these verbs. We use them all the time. So the rhyme and the reason of the irregular verbs makes the verb form stick in a person's ear, in a student's ear. It's a little bit like this spelling helper, which I like to remind my students. Here it is. Which is which? There are two ways to spell which, right? There's not the third way, which you see below the whiches, right? So, which is which? Little things like these, I think, help students remember. And big things like these verb groupings, I think, really help them remember. So I, in International House 2, would like to thank the Germanic verbs for this wonderful, wonderful topic of the irregular verbs. And I'm thinking that this might be a fun way for you to look at the verbs and try this out in your class. I think it's really a good way, and I've used it so many times, especially with students who already have studied the alphabetical list, but it just hasn't clicked up here yet. They've seen the verbs. But I'm thinking that as a method of presentation of verbs as well, sort of chants, sort of choral repetition of this would also be useful in small doses if you can cut it up quite well. So thanks for coming, and looking forward to seeing you in the teacher's room. Don't forget about our coffee at IH. Don't forget about you at IH. And I'd love to come and visit your school. So just give me a message somehow, either through Facebook or email me. Hope to see you soon. Bye.